Councillor Carlson, sound check.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Carlson, you can hear me, right?
Correct, Mr. Mayor, I can.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Now can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Welcome to City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 23rd. We will start off, Madam City Clerk, with a roll call.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. Councillor Croson? Present. Councillor Dodick? Here. Councillor Middleton Hope?
Present.
Councillor Palladino?
Present.
Councillor Parker?
Here.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel? Here. Acting Mayor Campbell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Carlson?
Here. Here.
Thank you. And Mayor Hagan? Mayor Hagan, sorry.
Present.
All present, thank you.
All right. I'll start off with recognitions, and I'll start to my far right. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate that. And on behalf of Council, I attended the National Volunteer Week earlier this, I guess it was last week, in which we had a number of volunteer organizations here at City Hall. There was some speeches and some well wishes, and a flag was raised. Much appreciated to all the groups that were present and support our volunteers across the city. Second was honoring excellence, which was an acknowledgement of some fairly impressive alumni at Lethbridge College. They received excellence awards from the president of the college, and well deserved. Some of the areas that they are working in are really quite amazing, quite innovative, and certainly maintain a profile of Lethbridge on the map. And thirdly was the RCAF banquet, celebrating 100 years and the 75th annual chartered night banquet for the 702 wing. And I had an opportunity to represent the city at that function, and I ran into one of our city employees, Ms. Cheryl Atchison, who is a member of the 702 wing and provided some really important directions for me to find my place and where I needed to be and what I needed to say. So I very much appreciated Cheryl's assistance. And it's good to see members of our administration actively involved in other community initiatives. And that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Croson.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. Just a reminder that we're in the middle of Cooley cleanup right now. So thank you to all the volunteers and organizations who assist to keep our coulees in our river valley as clean as possible. Last week, we also saw the launch of a literary magazine done by the students at Lethbridge College. It's called Ursa Minor. If you haven't had a chance to pick up a copy, it's absolutely amazing. So, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel was just modeling the new version, or the first one. They hope to make it annual. This might be the only one that comes printed. They're not sure, but beautiful work done by students at the college. And a reminder and a thank you to our administration for putting on the community conversation, which runs this Thursday on the 25th from 3 to 7 at the NMAX. One more incredible opportunity for people to engage with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Croson. Councillor Palladino.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Councillor Parker.
Councillor Croson said it all. Thank you.
All right. To far left, Councillor Dodick.
Hi.
Hi. All right. Hi, Councillor Dodick. How are you? You're doing well? Okay. Councillor Campbell.
It's been well documented in the media and everything like that, but just also a shout out from me and maybe on behalf of council, the great 30 years of Len Binning at the Movie Mill. He's retiring, but man, he's really made a name for himself with that, with the movies and movies that otherwise we wouldn't have seen. So congratulations to Len, and best of luck to him in his future. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just another shout out in addition to Councillor Croson's about the Cooley cleanup. It's an amazing sight to see so many folks in our community out there ensuring the health of our coolies and cleaning up. As well as yesterday was Earth Day. Thanks to all those who took part in in trying to conserve and take a stand for the planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. To echo Councillor Croson's congratulations to Lethbridge College on the launch of Ursa Minor, its new literary magazine. This is a fantastic opportunity for college students to showcase their creative skills and talents, and it will be issued once a year. A reminder that this Saturday is National Independent Bookstore Day. I encourage everyone to get out and get reading by supporting our local independent booksellers. Analog Books, Echo Books, and Big John's Books in our downtown core will be hosting activities from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And finally, congratulations to Dave Jackson and his team at Lialta Building Supplies. They're celebrating 65 years in our community this year. It's fantastic to see our local businesses hit these kind of milestones, and certainly a testament to how they support our city and our local economy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Most have been said. Touch base on an event that I attended, the Lethbridge Sport Council Achievement Awards. That was last week. I think Councillor Parker was there well as attended, and I want to give a huge shout out to his son that won an award for, what was it, Councillor Parker? It was Junior Male Athlete of the Year, so that was pretty exciting. And so many of awards of builders in the community and as well as athletes. So it was a great thing to attend. The Frost and Flare Gala. It was a gala that was put on here last week as well. It's to funding going towards building a hospice here in Lethbridge, and it was a beautiful event there that and was a sold out crowd. It was very, very well done. Community conversation, we've already heard that, and I do want to give a shout out as well to Len Binning. I know that in chatting to him when he first came into Lethbridge and had this idea, people thought he would flop within a few months, and it's something that this history continues to go, and it's an affordable way for the community to be able to catch those movies and that entertainment value. So thank you to him and his many years of running that movie mill over the years. Now we move on to the acknowledgement statement. The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we're gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land. The City of Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. I have a resolution from Acting Mayor Campbell, the adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda of the regular meeting of City Council on April 23rd, 2024 be adopted as presented. Are there any changes, Madam City Clerk?
No, Mayor Higgin, there are no changes to today's agenda. Thank you.
All right, Acting Mayor.
And with no changes, I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And I have a resolution from Deputy Mayor Carlson, and it's a 4-pager, so I'm sure this has been posted online as well as it'll be on the screen here. And my colleagues, are okay if I just read the motion there, followed, and not go through the whole collective motion? Is that fine? You've all had the opportunity to look at it as well as it is on the screen. So from Deputy Mayor Carlson, on the consent agenda, be resolved that the minutes of the following meeting of City Council be approved. The Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to sign the same. So that's City Council meeting 2024-0409. And further be resolved that City Council receive the information status of directed resolutions for 2024-0423 and continues on forward for another 4 pages. And so with that, Councillor Carlson, I don't know if there's anything from the consent agenda that does need to be, wants to be pulled? Okay, Councillor Crowson?
Plan and strategy. Not that, it's not a great plan, but so many questions from the public. So by putting it on the agenda, I think we can answer some of the questions I think we've all heard over the weekend.
Thank you. I think that exact thing. So thank you for pulling that. That was a discussion at the agenda review. Councillor Dodek.
I just wanted to highlight that one of the items that are on the consent agenda are the audited financial statement audit report. I see Mr. Taylor, one of our auditors, is here, and of course Daryl Matthews and part of his team is here. So as we know, every year we're required to have an audited financial statements for MGA purposes. We have a clean audit, so I'm happy to say that. But the report is more than just the audited financial statements. There's also the annual report that sort of basically gives the state of the city's finances. And the final part of the audited financial statements is the statistical information, which is unaudited, but it has all sorts of interesting information, as, for example, demographics. And I found out that we now have 106,000 people in Lethbridge, also that we didn't have census before. So the only reason I highlight that is that if there are any members of council that have any questions, we do have the authors of the unaudited financial, or the audited financial report, as well as the unaudited information available here. So I don't expect a lot of questions because a lot of it is self-explanatory, and some of it is accounting stuff, which is not quite as self-explanatory to me.
Thank you. And honestly, I think if it was not a clean report, we'd probably have another discussion right now, but where I'm happy to hear that that is, and so that we don't need to pull that from the agenda. Is there anyone here that does have questions for the auditors? And if that's the case, we can pull it. Is anybody? Let them get off with coming down here without getting a question? All right. Well, good work, obviously. Thank you very much. Appreciate the work done on that. Both Mr. Matthews and as the unaudited and the audited report. So thank you very much for that. Councillor Crowson.
Sorry, there's one more thing I wanted to add. We have 4 bylaws for first reading, and when I was coming in this morning, I heard something on the radio which made me remember that not everybody understands what first reading is in the public. First reading is simply to get something on the table for discussion. It doesn't mean something has been passed. In many of the cases here, for example, 4.4.4, there will be a hearing coming up, and all of them will be back for second and third reading. Again, just to give some explanation to the public, that first reading just brings it forward. It does not in any way pass a bylaw. So I thought that would be worth a reminder again for the community.
Thank you for that. That's very important. And I've had questions on 4.4.4, and this does give the ability to actually bring it and having a first reading gives the ability to have those discussions at a later time. So thank you very much for that, Councillor Crowson. So with that, back to Deputy Mayor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The discussion went through a lot of what I was going to bring up. So I appreciate that we are pulling the one item so we can have further discussion on it for our community's sake. I'd like to thank Chair of Audit Committee, Councillor Dodick, for highlighting the report. It's a pretty important document. Audit Committee does go through it in great detail and spend a lot of time with our administration and the auditors. So I didn't want to think it was just being immediately approved. It's had quite a lot of scrutiny. I did go through the minutes and the status of directed resolutions. I could not see anything unless my colleagues have questions.
There are no questions.
Then I will call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll go straight to the water report.
Let's flip through. So as you're all aware, we have not had any presentations brought forward that would happen today or official business resolutions. So we're moving right into the 8, which is committee submissions, and I have a submission from Councillor Crowson, recommendation of Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee, Water Conservation Plan and Strategy. Be it resolved that City Council approve the Water Conservation Plan and Strategy as provided in Attachment 1, including the targets and updated water rationing action plan. And direct administration to engage the ICI area as they draft the potential contents of an amending bylaw to the Water Bylaw 3999 for Council's consideration needed to give effect to the terms of this Water Conservation Plan and Strategy, which includes scaling water rates and water rationing action plan. And number 3, approve the voluntary, economic, and regulatory initiatives as presented with the incentive programs for rain barrels, water-efficient toilets, and zero-escaping contingent on future available funding. Open it up to questions. Councillor Crowson.
Well, first question, Mr. Sanchez. I believe that as part of this, the water conservation plan is needed after the water rationing plan. Unfortunately, we think we might need the water rationing plan quite early in this year. So number 2 there, do we need to divide that so that one has engagement and the other is brought forward quicker?
Yes, thanks for the question, and that's a good one. I believe, yes, well, the short answer is we need to split number 2, because the first item is related to engaging with the ICI on the economic terms, which is the scaling water rates, and that we will certainly do. We will do some engagement and consultation with the ICI and the stakeholders. But the second part of number 2 is relating to water rationing action plan. That action plan is what we will need to enact. Again, going back to what was presented, the conservation plan is the long-term plan. It's something we need to do moving forward. The water rationing action plan is only when we have a situation like what we have this year with the drought conditions. So it's by splitting these 2, that will help us to bring whatever changes are needed into the bylaw as soon as possible, and then delay the economic measures like the scaling water rates for further engagement with the ICI and the rest of the stakeholders.
Thank you. I do have an amendment to the resolution from Councillor Middleton Hope, and entertain that now. And that is similar to what was just discussed. That is splitting that. And so for the amended motion is be it resolved, I think if you got it in there, go down further, that approve the water conservation plan and strategy as provided in attachment 1, including the targets and updated water rationing action plan. And number 2, direct administration to engage the ICI area as they draft the potential contents of an amending bylaw to the water bylaw 3999 for council's consideration needed to give effect to the terms of this water conservation plan and strategy, which includes scaling water rates by Q4 2024 through an economic and finance standing policy committee. And number 3, direct administration to draft an amending bylaw to the water bylaw 3999 for council's consideration needed to give effect to the water rationing action plan by May 14th, 2024. And number 4, approve the voluntary economic and regulatory initiatives as presented with the incentive programs for rain barrels, water efficient toilets, and zero escaping contingent on future available funding. So does that, Councillor Crowson, kind of fit in? And Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, absolutely. That will meet the requirements that we have.
Thank you. Is there anything to add, Councillor Middleton Hope? This is your amendment?
No, I appreciate that, and I think Mr. Sanchez has not only provided some of the insights that I think are important to certainly to administration in moving this forward. But I think if there are any questions from my colleagues, I see Councillor Dodick might have a question. Mr. Sanchez is certainly in a position to answer those questions. But effectively, what we're looking at is we're effectively looking at moving forward the water rationing action plan peremptorily, so that we can get ahead of the season. And we've already begun to see that the season is already taking a hold. So that's the piece that we should be focusing on.
All right. Councillor Dodick.
Yes, excuse me. Thank you. My question more is on how did we get here, in the sense that when we were sitting as Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee on April 11th, there was a recommendation from administration, and we had quite a bit of discussion about it, and actually amended the recommendation to come up with what had been on the screen earlier. So I'm just curious as what had changed, or to now seeing that it's necessary to have this amendment in place. I will be supporting it. It's just I just want to know the process involved, because it's kind of puzzling to me, or sort of a little bit confusing. You get a recommendation, you have a debate on it at Economic SPC, you come up with a resolution to recommend to council, and then at council, then there's another amendment to it. So just the process as to how that happened.
Thank you. And, with SPC, of course, with 4 members of council, things can change after when those see it, I'm sure. But I think Mr. Sanchez,
9 members. There was
oh, sorry,
economic,
this
yeah.
economic, my bad. All right, thank you for that. Mr. Sanchez, do you have anything to add which you haven't already?
Yes, I can I can answer that question from Councillor Dodick, and he's absolutely right. This probably should have been picked up during the economic SPC, but it was I didn't make a comment, and I should have brought that we need to amend the water rationing action plan at the time, but I missed that opportunity. After the meeting, after the SPC, when I was talking to all the stakeholders, internal stakeholders, and the changes we need to do, we realized that even though in number 2 there was not a date specifically for the water rationing action plan, it's better to change the motion to have the Q4 to ensure that the public also knows that nothing related to the scaling water rates is happening until that time, and 2, that the water rationing action plan needed to have some changes right now. So again, I will say that it was on me that I should have probably brought that up during the SPC. It was after the fact that I realized we need more clarity in order to proceed and make sure that we're doing what council want us to do.
Thank you. Does that suffice? All right, and Councillor Middleton-Hope.
Just, I guess, a supplementary to Mr. Sanchez's comments. As I think council is getting the very distinct impression, this is a very fluid process, and there has been a need to amend this process as we're working through it, to be able, I think, to put this in motion now rather than wait until later in the summer. And so Mr. Sanchez, I think, has more than adequately responded to the questions to provide us with some insights into why we're moving through the process in this fashion.
Thank you for that. I guess the question I would have for you, Mr. Sanchez, through the city manager, is questions that I'm sure everyone gets as I get them on a regular basis is, so am I able to water my lawn? What days do I water my lawn? Do we not water? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, with the amendment, let's clear the amendment first, and then we will go to questions on the amendment. Is there anyone, actually, a vote on the amendment? So, Councillor Middleton-Hope, you're good? Open, close, you're fine? All right. Question's been called. All in favor? All right. Now, the amended 8.1.1. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Councillor Crowson. And my question, Mr. Sanchez, how does that, what's the reply that would go, that you would recommend going out to citizens when they say, well, am I watering Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Am I watering Tuesday, Thursday? I know we're not that far deep, but I know I had a neighbor a few doors down from me and says, I'm scared to turn on my water to water my lawn. And I'm thinking, well, it's pretty early already. Anyways, however, what would you suggest as a reply to that at this moment until this gets really solidified?
Yes, I will start with that answer, but I want to mention that I do have the team here present today, so because they can actually expand on the details. What I will say is at this point, the voluntary measures that we implemented last year in August are still in place, and we really encourage people for the voluntary phase. The water rationing plan, it will be depending on what the results are from the snowpack level, the river flow into the city, and other factors that the province is working on. And when it comes to implementing stage 1, it means that there could only be doing irrigation on lawns up to 2 hours on their blue and black day. But Mark can probably explain the details. He's the expert on this, and he has been leading this work to date.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome. So you didn't think you were going to be able to come down and not get up and chat, right? So we're glad.
I was hopeful.
Glad to have you here.
So yes, Mr. Sanchez had that right. So in stage 1 of water rationing, residents would be limited to watering 2 hours, up to 2 hours, 1 day a week on their designated day. So that's the blue-black cart collection day, just to keep that clear for people. The ICI community, the ICI group, waters on the same, up to 2 hours a day on a different designated day. And then our regional partners, regional customers, again, up to 2 hours a day on their designated day. And so that's how that's laid out for the stage 1.
Okay, that's for stage one, when we get to that rationing. Currently, the voluntary, same measures we had last year. It's just to encourage those that we may not need the water on there, or because you want to make sure that it's also done in a way that folks out there are wanting to be part of the solution, but not wanting to be ridiculed if for some reason they put some water on their lawn. So it's understanding that that next stage is where it will be, rationing will be in place. But right now, volunteer similar to last year.
Correct. We are currently in voluntary rationing,
Okay.
voluntary measures. So we are encouraging people to restrict their watering to the extent possible, but that's where it is.
Thank you. Councillor Croson.
Thank you. Following up from that, again, this was conversation going around social media. You said 2 hours, and you mentioned lawn specifically. How does your vegetable garden fit into that?
That's a very good question, and thank you for that. To clarify, the Water Rationing Action Plan lists outdoor watering. So that outdoor watering up to 2 hours, 2 hours per week, 1 day a week on that stage one. So that would include vegetable gardens. That said, we have not put a restriction on watering with handheld containers. And so we understand that some vegetable gardens, there's people that grow vegetable gardens, I'm one of them, and they require water a little bit different than a lawn does. So the outdoor watering with hose and sprinkler, that's what's restricted to that 2 hours. If you want to water more than that, it would have to be with the handheld container.
Okay. So people
Still keeping in mind that, the idea is to conserve water where and when possible, and to ensure that you're not overwatering something.
Right. And you can do things like use your boiled water that you've boiled your vegetables in and things like that if you want to go above and beyond.
Correct.
The other questions people are asking is, as I mentioned to Mr. Sanchez last time we discussed, the philosophy I'm hearing from people is they want everyone impacted, everyone in this, no one gets special treatment. So the question I'm hearing a lot is, how are golf courses going to be affected?
That's a great question. Not an easy answer to that question. Golf courses, for the most part, the golf courses in the city, they either water under their own water license or through a license they get through the irrigation company, the irrigation district. And so while there are restrictions, the irrigation district as well as the county have signed on to the Memorandum of Understanding for water sharing agreements. And so they will be limiting their water users as well. That said, the city doesn't have...
They're not under our jurisdiction.
They're not under our jurisdiction.
But we
so
hope they will follow this as well.
We hope they will follow. We are reaching out to some of them already just to have some discussions to encourage them to also do what they can to conserve where and when they can, for sure.
And the second part of that, you're probably not surprised, is car washes.
Car washes. Yes, we're not closing car washes or anything of the sort. Again, it's people's businesses and livelihood. It's not something we want to do. And so car washes can remain open. Again, we recommend that, maybe you don't wash your car every day or whatnot. It's okay for it to get a little dirty and go from there.
Some car washes recycle the water internally, correct?
My understanding is there's one car wash in the city that is currently legislated to be able to do that. So recycling that water is legislated by the province. And so there are some limitations on how that, there are steps to be taken to be certified to be able to do that. And so my understanding is there is one car wash that currently is certified for that.
Okay, perfect.
So if I, just to add a little bit into both and backtrack in terms of where the legislation and what everybody else is doing. When we talk about golf course, the water sharing agreement that was announced by the province last Friday, in our case, in our basin, is between the City of Medicine Hat, City of Lethbridge, Lethbridge County, and Lethbridge North Irrigation District. The license in most of the cases for the golf courses are coming from those irrigation districts like Mark expressed before, and also from the Oldman. But they have already committed to do a restriction. When you look at the water sharing agreements, they announced last week that they are cutting in half the allocation that they're giving to their users. So therefore, golf courses, they should be enforced under the same umbrella, and that's part of the work. And I know Mark mentioned we are reaching out, even though we have no jurisdiction, we're reaching out to them in order to ensure that they know this is what we're doing in the city. The irrigation districts are engaging with them as well. And the last thing I wanted to mention too is when, I know the mayor asked about when are we getting into that stage one. So as early as within the next 2 hours, we're having the first meeting with all the working group in the province to define the schedule where there are going to be meetings weekly. And the province might decide to enact those water sharing agreements as soon as the beginning of May. So this could be May 15. We're going to move into this stage one. Could be sooner than that, but all depends on the snow levels and the reservoir levels by the end of this month. So next week, we will have the second meeting to decide if they are going to be implemented, and that's where all these plans are going to be in place.
Okay. Thank you both for your answers. I see other people are in the queue, so I'll step out right now.
Thank you, Councillor Crowson. Again, thank you for your answers. Councillor Middleton-Holm.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of follow-up comments and questions. So the water licenses that affect businesses, predominantly golf courses that draw out of the river, those water licenses are ultimately controlled by the province of Alberta? And we are working with the province of Alberta on a mitigation strategy.
So that will depend. If they have a water license themselves, yes, that's part of the province. Some of them, they have an agreement with the irrigation district. So they use the license from the irrigation district, and that's what they have. So,
and the irrigation district is working with the province?
It's working. They are part of the MOU that we signed for the water
so
sharing agreement.
it's laddering up from the city to individual businesses to irrigation districts to the province?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Car washes. It is a concern that has been voiced by a number of folks saying, well, what about car washes? Car washes, you indicated at least one is into recycling. Are we working with other car washes across the city of Lethbridge to provide them to incentivize this so that in the future they are actually recycling water? So are we working with some of the car washes? Have we thought about a strategy to include them in the discussions?
So they
That's
are
assuming, of course, that they take a lot of water.
They are stakeholders. They are going to be bound with what we need to do. Currently, we are not working with them, but that's something that the team can easily just start the conversation to see what options are there and whatever is doable on their end. And I know at one point there could be options, but that will come to how this is implemented, and we can come back to an SPC and report on those outcomes.
Great. One last question and then I guess a comment before that. But if, for the sake of argument, citizens have questions about what can I power wash, can I wash my car, can I put water in my garden, can I do my lawn and so forth, they can always go through 311. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're providing some key messages to 311 so that those questions can be answered.
Great. So the last question then is in regards to communications sent to the back of the room. People need to understand what the expectations are, and quite candidly, I'm not clear on what some of the expectations might be. So I would suspect that there are people out there that probably don't have quite the same understanding for what we're trying to communicate to them about water rationing and water management. So I would like to recommend, and I'm sure my colleagues would. Well, I suspect my colleagues would support that, is perhaps a more robust communication strategy that would be essential, I think, to improve our success rate moving forward. And I think clarifications for some folks, some neighborhoods, is probably going to be in order, whether that's done through the Herald or on radio or television ads, but at the end of the day, I think people, in order to comply, and I think there's a good percentage of the people in our city that want to comply, I think we need to give them a reason to do that.
So just to use this opportunity to make a comment too, if council remember last year, we have a voluntary measures that were in place in August last year. And the results of those voluntary measures were over 10%. So I want to commend residents because at that time when we did the call, they stepped up and they did what they needed to do. So we are sure that they will do the same in this case. And we have here Mr. Liam, he's being from the comms group helping us. And I know they have been putting a lot of work, and the intent is to go out to the community and work with different stakeholders like Oldman Watershed and Environment Lethbridge in order to convey those messages.
Good, thank you.
And thank you for that, Mr. Sanchez. I think people don't know what they don't know. And so, of course, if that communication is out there, as Councillor Midland-Hope mentioned, it's they do want to comply. So if it's a 10% reduction, well, can we beat last year's? Or, this could maybe be in that and make it a competitive challenge, and so maybe we can get 15% or whatever that looks like. So I'm sure we've got our comms team that are here and they're hearing all this stuff. So it's thank you very much for that, Councillor Midland-Hope. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up, if I can, on Councillor Crowson's questions, maybe I'll ask a different one. We've asked about how car washes are going to be impacted, what the residents are expected to do. Pardon me. Perhaps we should also say what we are going to do. We've got a lot of parks, a lot of facilities that use water. How is the city going to step up so it's not a case of do what we say, not what we do?
So we have Mr. Richter here, so he can explain what he has been working with the team in terms of parks and his department. And after that, I could probably briefly talk about what are we doing for the other city departments, because we need to make sure we walk the talk and we lead the community with our example too.
Through the mayor to Councillor Carlson. As parks, in terms of irrigation, we are going to be reducing the water levels for our irrigation systems based on the different stages. We'll prioritize different park spaces based on different user needs. Examples being athletic parks would probably receive a higher level of water compared to maybe a median buffer that you'd see along the roadways. So we've got a plan for that, and the plan is to sort of adjust as these stages go through.
Thank you. I guess my thought is perhaps we should be leading rather than wait for the restrictions to be imposed. Start doing them now rather than waiting until level 1 is achieved. Showing the way. Is that a possibility?
And that is something we can definitely consider as the spring approaches.
And given to expand there, we are meeting this afternoon, later today, with our public operations team. And definitely we're going to start the work as soon as this afternoon. That's the news we're doing. And a few examples that we can use is we do use street sweepers, right? And they require water as part of their operation. So then possibility is that we use less water with the street sweepers. Of course, there could be an unintended consequence because now you have more dust. But again, it's the balance. We could start with half of the tank and apply half the rate of what we have done in the past and start that work now, as soon as we implement this. The other example is talking about car wash. So we can control what we own, right? So maybe we are not going to wash the outside, the city buses, every 2 days or every day whenever we do the schedule. Maybe we do that once a week. And we start monitoring those. The benefit in our case is that we have a baseline compared to last year. So as the mayor mentioned before, we could even have the stats and the metrics to say, this is how much are we reducing. This is what we are doing with city facilities, with city vehicles and everything that we have control.
And pardon me. Thank you. I appreciate that response. I think we should be leading rather than waiting. Second question, if I can, and maybe I misunderstood the plan as presented, because we did talk a lot about lawns, which is, people love them. They're very pretty, but they're not very productive. A food garden, as Councillor Crowson started to bring on, is very productive, and people put quite an investment into that because, rising food costs. When I read the plan, I thought it was talking about things that cause a runoff. Pardon me. Wasteful water use. I don't consider a food garden wasteful in any shape or form. Is there, and especially like if we've got community gardens around the city, and all of a sudden you say you get 2 hours to water 1 day a week, that's not how gardens work. I've got a garden. I'd much rather get 3 days a week with 20 minutes, use half my water, not put a drop on my lawn, and save my garden. Is there any thought about exempting food gardens from this? Because I think that would make sense to me.
So that's an excellent question, and I will start one more time, and Mark can clarify anything. But the intent of the plan is to avoid runoff. And the main issue is that not everybody have their food gardens set up in a way that they use water efficiently. Some people have them as part of their sprinkle system, where the sprinkle go and they reach out to them and they result in runoff water. So we want to make sure that anything that can lead to a runoff situation where we're going to waste water is not allowed. So residents could use a hose and just implement what they need, or if it's for those. And the other option that we had as part of the plan is rain barrels. So again, that could be another incentive, and that could be another solution where people can use the water from those rain barrels and then use the manual canister like Mark mentioned before, and apply the water to their food gardens. And again, I want to make sure that I mention that communication is key here, and that's what we will be doing throughout this whole process, because things are going to change, and we want to make sure we answer those questions. Many people have the same questions that we receive here, and we really encourage people to reach out to 311, that they will have most of the details. And as they are coming on board, they will have them available for residents too.
I wasn't sure if there was anything further. My final question, I guess, would be around it. How are we going to communicate that? Because right now is the season where people are planning their food gardens and putting them in. And I got messaged by a lot of people who said, I guess we can't this year. And I want to assure them that a food garden is not a waste of water. It's a valuable resource and should be encouraged, and pardon me, in the community. And sorry, everyone, the reason I'm not there is because I don't think you want me sneezing on you today. But so I want to know about communication plan to assure people that we're not going to say, nope, your garden must die now.
So that is definitely something we can message out more in our communications plan. We have been talking internally on what some of those messages can be and what they can include, and what maybe we need to include sooner rather than later, and messaging out a little bit about giving some clarity on gardens and lawns and runoff and whatnot. We can definitely look at that and trying to make things a little more clear for everybody.
Excellent. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Great questions. And yes, those, as you're preparing to plant your garden, I'm sure that's information that you'd want to know sooner than later. So we appreciate that as far as coming back with key messaging there. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. And this might actually be more for Mr. Richter with regards to parks and trees and that sort of thing. How are we going to care for our urban forest and canopies? So trees trees, and in particular, the mature trees, those we've got in our public spaces, those a lot of people have on their private properties. They require deep watering, and they're beneficial to our city for keeping it cool. They keep the water inside our city, so not everything is evaporating. How are we going to make sure that we're limiting water going on grass, but how are we going to make sure that people and the city are going to be deep watering the trees enough? Because what we've got right now for water rationing isn't going to keep our trees alive. And we want to make sure we've had incidences where trees are diseased, we have to take them out. We had infestations of some pests a couple of years ago where most of the trees needed to be inoculated. So how are we going to make sure that the trees are taken care of because they are beneficial to the community as well?
Absolutely, that's a great point, great question. So for the Parks Department itself, we are going to still prioritize watering of our trees. We are not going to reduce the watering of our trees. Some of those trees are actually tied to irrigation systems. Okay. So you may see those irrigation systems running to water those trees. And we also have some water trucks that water some of the boulevard trees that you see. So we're going to still prioritize the watering of trees. They are an important asset in our city, and still encourage residents to take care of the trees on their own properties as well. So part of that will be the messaging that Communications puts out on best practices and how to water your trees, how often, and just to better inform the public about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, a question I would have, and through Mr. City Manager's designate, is we're seeing a lot of, we're going to cut back on watering within, you know, our parks, etc. We're going to cut back on some bus cleaning, for example, maybe not as much to be able to conserve water. Will this realize a staffing savings?
Blair can start, and then I will add for the other side.
From a parks perspective, it likely won't impact our staff for the summer. We've already gone ahead and hired our irrigation staff. However, knowing the situation that they may not be as busy, we're going to sort of flex those staff around to other areas in terms of maintenance and other work they can do inside the parks.
Great. So some of the work that is probably been needing to be done over time, that could be some of the work that could be done to keep folks busy. Okay, that's great here. It's a question that I'd had, so I appreciate that answer. Councillor Dodick.
Yes, thank you. I don't want to be a contrarian to in the sense of the question that Councillor Carlson was asking about the food garden, but the way the watering or the way we meter our water now, there's no way of separating whether we're using it for personal consumption, whether we're using it on grass, whether we're using it on garden. So there's got to be a consideration of the cost-benefit analysis in terms of some people grow gardens because they want fresh vegetables. So in fact, it may be cheaper to buy the vegetables from an outside source rather than from a food garden. So I don't know how you would be able to determine whether or not there should be an exemption or a partial exemption of food garden based on that cost-benefit analysis, because I don't know how much water is. I see Mr. Sanchez is nodding, so he's chomping at the bit to respond to this comment question. Mr. Sanchez.
So I can say that I agree. It's really hard to put. We are focusing here mostly in outdoor watering, not indoor, because back to your example, we don't know how much water is being used indoor, right? What people are doing inside the houses. And when it comes to the cost-benefit analysis, it will be really complicated to go and prove that. But with that being said, it all goes back to the education and outreach and having that information for people to tell them, this is how you can do it, because I believe they can still have a food garden as long as they follow the guidelines and the principles that are being established by the plan. So Mark mentioned that before. People could use rain barrels, people could use a canister just to water what they need, or a hose as long as they don't cause any runoff.
So really, you just want each household to reduce their output, and they can use it how they want to do it, whether it be for personal, whether it be for a lawn or for a garden. Right? Yeah.
Yes, the intent is to have an overall reduction as a whole.
Thank you.
All right, and I have heard to that point some folks that are cutting back on, say, for example, potatoes. Potatoes take a lot of water, and so of course, does it benefit to purchase potatoes? Unfortunately, we like to have our own gardens. However, that's something, and those that take a lot of moisture are they're removing more of those from their gardens and doing, growing things that take less water. And so, have you heard the same, Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, and that's exactly the same conversation that the irrigation districts, that's why they went ahead of time, because farmers, they need to plan ahead. So they need to plan which crop are they going to use, because some use more water, less water, others are committed only to one crop, so they need to balance those priorities, and that's why people need to think, what do I need to plant, and what is going to be the most beneficial in order to conserve water and also at the same time reach something. Like you mentioned before, maybe potatoes is something you get at the grocery stores because they use a lot of water. So that definitely is the message that also Environment Lethbridge has been passing to people around.
And remember, with the majority of the water coming out of our river, 98% roughly goes to irrigation. So they've got a little more water to be able to grow these potatoes if needs be. So thank you for that, Councillor Crowson.
Thank you, Mayor Higgin. One last question. I know all of council received this one. The concern about how much water is lost in flushing toilets and whether we're going to include that in the educational campaign about, ways to, I know we talked about having new toilets brought in, but also with your present toilets, I'll just say it, if it's brown, flush it down. If it's yellow, let it mellow. Like, people are wanting us to make sure that reminder is going out as well.
So that is one of the things that we've started to push out already is where you can save water, how you can save water in your bathroom. And our Water Wednesday feature has started a few weeks ago. We're a few weeks into that, and the bathroom was one of those features. Toilets are or can be a large use of water in the house and a large waste. A small leak in a toilet can use a lot of water over a day. In terms of, a larger leaking toilet, a toilet can leak up to 1,000 liters a day if left unattended. And so just being aware of those and checking and fixing leaks as you become aware of them, but being aware of those large water users in your home, like toilets and showers, and maybe, as you mentioned, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. Those types of messaging as well. There's things that people can do in their homes to save that water.
So in addition to what Mark just mentioned, Liam just came from the comms team, and he reminded me that we are actually next week, there will be a campaign on the Water Wednesday campaign and dedicated to the toilets, and they have even an educational video that they have acquired that will be available for residents. And I know the team has also the testing kits that will be available for residents, and they actually were handed out during the Home and Garden Show for people that had those questions. So definitely, toilets, they could be easily half of your water bill if you don't take care of them.
And just final wrap up, will your team be at the community conversations on Thursday? So anybody there will be able, if this is fresh of mind, be able to ask you questions?
Absolutely. We will be there to answer any questions that come up.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Higgin.
All right. I see no further questions. So resolution from Councillor Crowson. Oh, sorry, as amended. I'm sure you don't want me to read this again. I have read it off. Is there to open debate, Councillor Crowson?
I wish we lived in a world and in a location where we didn't have to have these considerations, but water being such a precious resource, we have to both plan long-term conservation and, in the drought year that we're in, think of rationing as well. Thank you so much to Mr. Sanchez and his entire team for all the work that has gone into drafting these and the work that will continue as we move ahead in different aspects of these plans. We have them now in place as we're heading into May, when a lot of this will take effect, and I hope my colleagues will support this.
All right. Any further debate? No further debate. Question's been called. All in favor? That's scary. Thank you. And thank you very much, Sanchez and your team. Appreciate it. And I do have a question or a comment or a suggestion or something from Councillor Dodick. We're not sure what, but I see him in there.
Sorry, I have to apologize. Item 4.4.4 on the consent agenda was the bylaw amendment re 714 7th Street South for first reading. I put my hand up, voted for it, but my a close family member owns a house in that area, and I assisted them in purchasing the house. The mortgage company required me to be on title. So even though I'm not a beneficial owner, so the question is of the city's solicitor, my having voted on it, does that create a conflict? Or, see, the way I see it is that if it will be a conflict. Going to the second reading and third reading, I will definitely excuse myself on that. But, so if it's not a conflict on the first reading, then it's fine. If it is a conflict, then I would be respectfully asking my council colleagues to rescind that, allow me to excuse myself, and then re-vote on it in my absence. So what say you, city solicitor?
Make it good.
If I understand correctly, you're on title for the property named in the bylaw, is that correct?
No.
Just an adjacent property?
Yeah. Well, in the zone, in the catchment area for notification.
As council knows, I can't give advice to individual councillors on what does or doesn't constitute a conflict, but as you've asked the question, I think the safest course of action would be simply to rescind it and have you exempt yourself as you plan to for the second and third reading.
Okay, so I apologize to my colleagues, and I would ask if, can I vote on the rescindment? I guess I can.
Madam City Clerk, actually put it to Madam City Clerk.
Okay, actually, I won't even vote on the rescindment. I'm going to excuse myself, and hopefully council will rescind it in my absence.
All right, and Madam Clerk?
Thank you. So it would be a two-step process. First, we rescind, and then we vote on first reading. So you could stay for the rescindment if you like.
So the rescindment is for, and that is number, on the agenda, 4.4.4. I'm sure we don't need any further question on that, so a vote to rescind. All in favor? And that's unanimous. And we'll have that from, who is the motion?
Deputy Mayor?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Councillor Carlson.
No.
Oh, you're good? Okay. And now the exact resolution that was presented previously to being rescinded will be voted on again. Are there any further questions on it? And if not, Councillor Rumpel, are you okay to sponsor that? All in favor? And that so passes. Thank you. And we'll let Councillor Dodick. Thank you very much, Councillor Dodick. Appreciate you bringing that up.
Just drank a bunch of water.
All right.
Yeah, flush the toilet a few times.
You flush the toilet, drink water. You son of a bitch.
All right, I do have two city council inquiries requiring an administrative response, and these responses will come at the next, will be on the next agenda review committee to follow up on May the 14th. So one of the inquiries coming from Councillor Crowson and Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, while we recognize that the city has a land banking strategy related to industrial land, do we have an industrial land attraction plan that considers the best ways to attract companies? And if we have such a plan, do we consider utilities in our industrial land attraction plan? And if not, should we? Further, what kind of industrial capacity does the city have? So, Mr. City Manager, you'll have that inquiry, and if does that timeline sound fine here within a couple weeks here to be back with a response?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right. And the next one from Councillor Carlson. regarding the 7th Street bike lane connection. So on March the 12th, City Council referred an OBM to the May 2nd, 2024 Assets and Infrastructure SPC for community consultation. During the debate, questions arose around outstanding work on the project. It was identified that there was outstanding portion to be completed between 5th and 6th Avenue South for $350,000 and has already been awarded to the same contractor who completed the work last year. What is the status of the missing section of 7th Street South protected bike lane between 5th and 6th Avenue South, connecting 4th Avenue South and 7th Avenue South? And my apologies, I should have asked if the members that were sponsoring had anything, or if they're just waiting for the responses to come back in a couple of weeks. Is that fine? As long as admin understands. All right. Is there any questions you have for Councillor Carlson? And I will entertain if there's anything previously, or is that was clear?
No questions.
All right, and that similar timeline is okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dodick.
Yes, with respect to that inquiry, I think it should be pointed out or remind people that on May 2nd, Assets and Infrastructure, SPC, people have been invited, and particularly the business folks that are affected by 7th Street and 4th Avenue bike lanes. And I truly do invite them to come down. But I'm afraid that the social trolls, based on what I've seen, for example, boycotting on one business, and another business almost seeing a sense of inevitability with respect to the outcome of this, the fact that they're already built. And so even though I encourage people to come out, I am concerned about that. And I do want to, I want to give kudos to the city administration for not proceeding with the missing section at this point in time, because the optics would look really bad if they were to do so, when in fact we invited the public to come on May 2nd. So those are the comments I have with respect to this. I see Mr. Sanchez.
So, Mr. Sanchez, followed by, I'm sure, Councillor Carlson, you may have something to say to that as I'm seeing your expressions. All right, Councillor Carlson, just one moment if we can have Councillor Sanchez. Councillor Sanchez. All right. Absolutely not, right? Mr. Sanchez, the floor is yours after you have 50 signatures.
I just want to use this opportunity because that's a good comment. It's coming back on May the 2nd, and we do have an online survey available right now for those that cannot make the meeting or they want to use the survey. That survey is in Get Involved, and we also partner with the BRSAT to ensure that all the downtown businesses, they get an opportunity to use the survey and also voice their comment or concerns or in favor of the work. So that is available, and we are encouraging people to fill that up.
Councillor Carlson. Oh, sorry, you're breaking up. We can't see. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. The floor is yours, Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was a bit concerned that Councillor Dodick intimated that the project had been paused. I wasn't aware of that. I thought it would be fairly simple to ask when it was going to be done, because at the previous meeting we talked about this. It was said it's already been awarded and is going ahead because it's the connection piece that people are waiting for. I even had a message from one constituent who isn't a fan of bike lanes throughout the downtown, but likes a connection to downtown for his biking. And so it would just really upset me if we were told one thing at the meeting, that no, it's already been awarded and is going ahead, and then to find out, as I'm not sure if Councillor Dodick knows it's paused or was just thinking it may be paused, but has it been paused? Because we were told at the meeting it was already awarded and going ahead. So I'm a little shocked right now.
I know this is coming back, but I think in light of it kind of being out there right now, and is there Mr. City Manager, your designate, is there, to what Councillor Carlson asked, do you need time to come back with that, or is that a pretty straight answer as far as paused or not paused? I know that this is an inquiry that's supposed to be coming back later, but in light of what we've heard, it may be important to speak to that, as we know that those folks will be watching or listening, may have that question. In over 2 weeks, we may be inundated in some communication, so I don't know if there's something that could be answered at this point.
I'll start and then Mr. Sanchez can weigh in. So Councillor Carlson spoke to me about this and I suggested that we bring it forward for this exact inquiry to have this discussion and provide the clarification that's required. So I'll let Mr. Sanchez weigh in from there.
So we will provide more information when the inquiry comes back, but I can say that at this point there has been a delay on that project. The project is still scheduled to happen. Has been awarded, but it's going to happen most likely mid-May. And it was also a perfect timing because we have the community conversation, and like Councillor Dodick mentioned before, it's always good to have that opportunity to get that feedback from those in favor and against. But the project, as you mentioned, has been awarded, will be, or is scheduled to happen, I believe. I don't have the exact date. We will come back through the inquiry with that date, and is supposed to be done within the next 2 months. I will say less than that if it's possible. It's a small section that was pending, but it was a combination of a delay in the project, and at the same time we're doing the engagement. So it's a win-win for everybody, and we can ensure that we get the feedback from all the people involved.
All right, Councillor Carlson, does that answer your question? I know there's feedback at community conversation as well as an online and coming back to an SPC. That works for you?
I appreciate that. It would alarm me if we were told one thing at council and then something else happened. So that is my concern, is we were told it was going ahead. As long as it's a delay for appropriate reasons, not political reasons, then I'm fine. Thank you.
All right. Squinting, you're okay. Councillor Dodick. All right. Okay, with that, appreciate those two responses, I think, or responses, inquiries that we will have responses to and further responses. So thank you very much for that. All right, we'll move to council updates. And now I've been asked by some of my colleagues there that, is this an opportunity for any of the SPCs that come in, and if it's on an agenda item or not, this is the time, if you want to speak about the SPCs that you may chair, or anyone else that participates within those SPCs, this is a time to be able to bring forward some of those updates, or anything else that happens in the community if you're attending an event, etc. So open it up to those questions now, starting with Councillor Middleton-Holm.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to provide council with a very brief update on the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee, which occurred last Thursday. Mr. Dwayne Enns from Regulatory Services provided a presentation on derelict/abandoned/properties of concern around the city. Suffice to say that there is an initiative by Regulatory Services in concert with Lethbridge Fire and EMS and Alberta Health Services to identify properties throughout the city of Lethbridge that are in less than stellar condition. They are working with landlords to remediate some of those properties. They are also working with the provincial scan unit to ensure that the properties that are being used for inappropriate purposes are also being taken to task. So it was a fulsome discussion from Mr. Enns. Point 2 is the encampment strategy update that was provided to the Standing Policy Committee, and we are ready to continue to initiate and move forward the encampment strategy, which was very successful last year, this summer. And thirdly was the Galt Museum update and the annual report from the Galt Museum. And that's it for Standing Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. On April 11th through 12th, Councillor Crowson and I virtually attended the Economic Developers of Alberta conference. We have put together a submission that has been sent to the clerk's office, and that should be forthcoming to the rest of council shortly.
Great, thank you very much for that. I just, for my colleagues to know, and I think you've all seen this process here unfold as it has with how we're doing closed session. So we're starting off our council meeting at 12:30. And many of the times in the past, or most of the time in the past, we start off at 12:30 and go into closed. What the comment on that is that if folks are coming in at 1:30, if our session extends, we open up and we go right into close right away. It seemed a better process to do it this way, and I'm hoping at my colleagues, is there any questions on that? Or does that seem to be working fine for your colleagues? All right. It seems to run a little more smoothly, I think, although we get the same work done that's needed. So thank you very much for that. With that, we are finished our regular agenda with the exception of a closed report. And so I'll have a resolution from Councillor Crozan that we enter a closed session. Be it resolved that we do now enter closed session at 1:40 p.m. to discuss confidential matters with respect to item 14.1 as per sections 23 local public body competences and 25 harmful to economic and other interests of a public body of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. Councillor Crozan? Question's been called. All in favor? All right, and that's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we will continue on with the meeting here today, and we'll start with a resolution that I have from Councillor Croson, close meeting UPass update. Be it resolved, the City Council direct administration to proceed with confidential option number 1, and further be resolved, the City Council direct the closed meeting presentation, reports, documents, and discussion with respect to UPass update remain confidential pursuant to Section 24 advice from officials and 25 harmful to economic and other interests of a public body of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. Councillor Croson, I guess it's still open up for questions. There's not really any questions we could have. So I will not open up for questions. Councillor Croson.
I hope my colleagues will support this. We have seen UPass in place for the last number of years, and it is a benefit to the university and the city, so I hope my colleagues will support.
I will add, that's debate, so I want to ask you to please be careful of that because that is a closed discussion, which...
What I've said is all just generic information.
It's not...
Well, it's my own opinion in debate.
Yeah, okay, all right. So with that, Councillor Dodek?
Generically, I oppose the UPass.
All right, with that, has the question been called? Question's been called. All in favor and opposed? So that passes 5-4. All right. And with that, we are adjourned.